So we're here with Craig Rucker of CFACT at the COP24 in Katowice, Poland. We just came out of a side event featuring Trump administration officials. What are your thoughts on the event so far and on this side event in terms of what the Trump administration is saying?
I'll tell you, Alex, I think it's kind of a circus. Not that the Trump administration didn't propose some good ideas on clean technologies and the like, but it's an outrage that the UN is allowing the type of circus to go on where disruptors can penetrate inside and actually stop the entire program from going on and chant a bunch of things and not be escorted out. I'll tell you, Alex, a couple years ago at COP22 in Morocco, we put up a life-size picture of Donald Trump, shredded the Kyoto Treaty, and kind of a sideshow of our own that was at a press event that really wasn't disrupting anything. And Marc Morano and I, in doing that, were tossed out of this place into the desert in Morocco, not even given the dignity of going out the front door. Our badges were ripped off. They told us we'd never see the blue zone again, which is where we've been going to these things since the 90s, because we had done that. That's tame. When we were readmitted, we had to go through certain sort of security and training and everything else on UN rules of conduct. Meanwhile, at this Trump meeting today, they're allowing scores of people to come forward, shout down the speakers, and nothing is done. But we're going to get to the bottom of this, because this is a clear double standard.
Why do you think they have this double standard? Why do you think they're so hostile to people who maybe question the narrative and so friendly with people who support the narrative?
That's an excellent question. Obviously, it's a political bias. I mean, that's the only thing that can explain it. We're going to get to the bottom of it because they're not supposed to. They're supposed to allow for diversity of opinion. That's actually in their rules of that they put forward to us. And they've even told us verbally, it's not our opinion as to the reason, it's just that you violated procedures. Well, we have a lawyer with us, so we will look at those procedures, and if in fact they violated, which they clearly did, we're going to make it known. If not taken seriously here at the UN, we'll try and make our case to the American people.
And so in the broader climate issue, where do you think the situation stands now? I mean, we have a president of the United States who doesn't agree with this. We have new leaders around the world who are starting to speak out, but at the same time we have, 30,000 people here in Poland coming up with rules to implement the Paris Agreement. So where do you think this is going to go from here?
Well, I think France is probably giving us a taste of the future. I just actually, before coming to this conference, went to France and got a chance to talk to many in the Gilets jaunes, the French yellow jackets that are protesting there. Some have said they've turned violent. Our impression is that is not the average person who's in the Gilets jaunes. In fact, it's much like what they did to the Tea Party a long time ago, where you maybe have infiltrators coming in, bringing out this violence. The people we met with, rural folks, hard hit by carbon taxes, energy prices going through the roof. I could speak a little French with them, and when I was just meeting with them in restaurants, on the streets during these protests, person after person just said they cannot afford essence, the gas prices, and all the different things going with it. That is what they're upset about, and that is caused by the climate policies and the carbon taxes that emanate from things like this, places like this meeting here. And if that is our future, it's a very dangerous one, and that could be our future unless people take heed and back off from the Paris Accord and adopt the type of technologies they were just talking about in this workshop.
Very good. And as far as the science goes, I know the latest report from the NIPCC was released, and the IPCC, of course, put one out, and the federal government. What do you think? Is there, as a lot of people here say, a consensus that global warming is caused by humans and we have 12 years left to save the planet, or is there maybe some more questions? What do you think?
Yeah, well, there's a consensus among those who are in the climate alarm movement, I'm sure, and that's who put out this report. We did some looking into who was behind this. It was not Trump appointees. These were people from the World Resources Institute. We documented another one was funded by Steyer, and these are activists in the government who put out the National Climate Assessment Report, and on the face value of it, it's preposterous. They're talking about a 10% decline of GDP, for example, over basically most of this century. They're talking until 2100. But that 10% decline is assuming the U.S. economy grows by 300%. So you're talking about 290% growth instead of 300%. Even using their scenario, it's a modest dent in economic growth, which is much cheaper than the type of policies they're talking about if we tax carbon and we drive up costs and everything else. So I think it's inherently inconsistent, this report. Some of the claims they're making about severe weather are just blatantly wrong. We are not seeing an increase in wildfire activity. We're not seeing an increase in hurricane activity. In fact, we've been at historic lows in both of these things. This is even using data that comes from the UN and other bodies that are far from the far right. So on issue after issue, it's out there, and Trump was right to dismiss it. Even here, the IPCC report, which came out beforehand, which had similarly preposterous things that the world would come to an end by 2030 unless we start adopting Paris measures, that report was dismissed by the Trump administration, I think Russia and a couple others. And Brazil just elected a president who's totally in opposition to this. They were going to host next year's meeting in Brazil. He dropped that. So we're excited actually about hopefully meeting the Brazilian delegation here, and our hope is that is the trend.
Excellent, very good. Anything else you want to add?
No, other than I'm going to be talking to some UN officials, so we'll keep you posted on that. And from my perspective, this is an outrage what just took place, clear double standard, and we're going to get to the bottom of it with CFACT anyway.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you, Alex.